Okay, in this example, we're going to walk through the steps for using uh, Publisher to publish out ArcReader project files. So one of the first things would want you to do is to make sure you set up some parameters in your map document. So under File, under Map Document Properties, make sure you have this store relative path names to data source. That's not 100% necessary, but it does make it a little bit easier instead of having the full path to the files and project files, store relative path so that the MXD is always in a relative path to where the data sits. Hit apply, hit OK, save your document. Now, the next thing that you want to do is make sure you have all the layers in here exactly how you want them to be displayed, from the names that are used in the table of contents to the symbology that's here, everything that you want to have up here. If I want to rename something, just click it once to activate it, and click it again, and that can here I can rename that. Again, you know how to change the symbology, go to symbology, but get the things, the layers in here the way you want them. The next thing is I'm going to right-click, use my mouse button, right-click out here in the open space, and make sure my Publisher toolbar is turned on. Now, right now, all these buttons are grayed out. Now, you may have to turn on your extensions. So go to Customize Extensions and make sure your Publisher extension is enabled. All right, now once this is enabled, we want to publish our document. So we've got our table of contents the way we want it laid out. We've got our extent and zoomed in to where we want it all laid out. Now we're ready to go. I saved my document, and now we're ready to go. So the first thing we want to do is just simply create an ArcReader file. And the way you do that is you can either just click on this button right here, and it'll open up the dialog box for you to save out your PMF file for your Publisher map file, or you can go underneath the pull-down menu and say Publish Map. Now I've gone in and created a folder under my temp for all my ArcReader stuff. So I'm going to use the same name as the name of my MXD, or I can change it to something else, and I'm going to hit save. And it's just going to publish the current map document. So all the settings, the extent, the colors, the way I've got things configured here in table of contents, all that stuff is going to be saved. And if I look at my ArcReader folder, we'll see now I have this PMF file set up. It's just the file, not the data with it. And I could use that on my existing machine if I wanted to, just by double-clicking on that, and it should open it up on my desktop using the relative paths to all the data. So it knows where everything's at, and now I'm running this on my local machine, and that's fine. But I want to package this up so I can send it to somebody. So the next thing I want to do is I want to package up the file. I want to create a data package. And so the first thing it asks me to do is pick a PMF file, pick a Publisher map file that I want to use. And so I go to my C drive, temp, my ArcReader folder, and I find the PMF file that I want to use, and I hit open that up. And it's going to give me some options to set up some different parameters. So the things I want to be concerned with is, first off, I want to make sure I pick a folder so I can store my data package in. And so I'm going to go to that same temp folder. So we'll go C drive, temp, and I'm going to pick my ArcReader folder, and that's where I'm going to store that data package. And then I pick a format. I can just use a default file geodatabase, so it'll take everything out of its original file geodatabase, create a new file geodatabase, and put it in that temp ArcReader folder. I could use a compressed, I can lock that file, and or copy data in existing format. So if it's in a different format, like a shape file or something like that. So I'm just going to do a file geodatabase, and I would keep this unchecked. This is saying only include map layers with features present in the data frame extent. So if I had several data frames and the extents was different, and some of these layers went outside the extent, I may want to check that off because I want to just limit my data, but I want to give the person everything within my table of contents. So I'll leave the folder intact. I use a file geodatabase, and then next, I want to make sure that I include all features in the data set. I'm not worried about just clipping to my extent, because the data that I'm working with is just in this extent anyways. So I'm going to bring everything out within my data set. And in this case, if I had rasters that were beyond my extent, and I didn't want to include them because it would be too large to transport, I could clip those out. But in my case, my extent is inclusive for my rasters. So I'm just going to say include all rasters. This does not affect the base map. That's a map service. That's not considered a raster. It's a map service. But everything else in here, like my elevation, slope, those are rasters. And if they were larger than my extent, then I could clip those off to save space. But in this case, I don't care about that. So then we'll hit OK, and it goes out and does its thing. And the data package message box that pops up and it says it's been created successfully. So if we go back on my folder structure, we see now this is the original PMF, but now it created a new folder for my data and my new PMF file. So it took the one that I created, made a copy of it, and put it into a new folder called PMF and a new folder called data. And there's my geodatabase with all the layers in there. And at this point, all I need to do is zip up these two folders. And that's it. I just zip this up right here and then send this off to somebody. So here's my new folder. Now, to see if this really works, let's copy this. Let's go back to my temp folder and let's create a new folder called, I don't know, temp ArcReader. And let's go in here and let's uncompress. Let's paste this zip file and then uncompress it and leave it right here and see if this thing really works. So now if I go to my PMF file folder, right, where my project file is, these are the only two folders that got zipped up with that zip file. I should be able to double click that and it should open up the data in the folder relative to that project. So if I come in here and I right click and look at properties, it should show me that it's now pointing to C temp ArcReader, that data folder in the geodatabase that was created when I published it from the beginning. And that's how you can tell that it was created properly. And as you can see, all the data elements that come over just fine and are positioned and viewable and usable within ArcReader. And so I close this out, and let's remove these folders. And so at this point, we've got that data set all ready to go. I could just simply take the zip file and ship it off to somebody. There you go.